It's very strange to me, Madam Speaker, very strange that all of us to assemble dressed in suits to come and borrow in Congole to service in Congole.
What's up? My name is Ken Binwell, the MC with the sauce. Don't forget to subscribe to JQ.
Honorable Member from Nkana, please.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity for me to make a few comments. My colleagues have said enough of what I would have wanted to say. And for the very first time, Madam Speaker, I want to confess that I am extremely bothered. Madam Speaker, I am bothered that the whole lot of us seated here, we set off from our homes dressed up in good suits just to come and discuss this item. The Minister of Finance is asking us to support his intention to add more debt on what he had already borrowed for 2024. That is what we're basically doing. It's an addition to the debt that he had already asked us to borrow. Madam Speaker, there's nothing sinister in borrowing at a personal level, at a household level, at a business level, and certainly there's nothing sinister for a country to borrow. Very, economic giants in this world, the likes of the US, borrows. In fact, we are told the US owes China billions of dollars. In fact, trillions, I'm corrected, of dollars. So there's nothing sinister about borrowing. And certainly, when a country borrows like Zambia, there's nothing sinister. I want to believe that there's nothing wrong in Honorable Msokotwani coming to this house to ask us to support his intentions to borrow. Madam Speaker, when I listen to our colleagues seated on the right, they strike me as very intelligent people, especially when they castigate the people sitting on your left because of their insatiable appetite to borrow in the previous administration. They strike me as people who have got solutions, who will never take us.
Sorry, Honorable Member from Nkana. There is an indication for a point of order. Honorable Member for Luena, what's the point of order?
Madam Speaker, I was seated here listening to the Honorable Member for Nkana, who has a tendency of casting aspersions on fellow members of Parliament. Is the Honorable Member for Nkana in order to insinuate that when he looks at the members on your right, they look like they are intelligent people? Consequently, Madam Speaker, suggesting that notwithstanding, in his analysis, the opposite is true. Is the Honorable Member, who is Mukulusana, in order to talk about intelligence and the downness in this house, when we are talking about a government that borrowed 14 billion and one that's borrowing 1.6 billion, is he in order, Madam Speaker, to make such comparisons? 72.
The Honorable Members, we are not supposed to debate ourselves. However, the Honorable Member for Luena has not indicated which standing order or rule has been breached. So, unfortunately, the point of order is not admitted. The Honorable Member for Nkana may continue, but please do not debate others. Stick to your debate. You may proceed.
Madam Speaker, these days, every other conversation we've had about the well-being of this country has unfortunately been reduced to a debate on issues of debt. No, you are seated on the left, you have no right to speak because you borrowed. I would have hoped that our colleagues who strikes me as people who have solutions would never ask this House to support them to borrow. Strange enough, Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance comes to us to ask us to support him to borrow to go and service a debt. Madam Speaker, why do people borrow? People borrow when they don't have. And that is why I said in my preamble, borrowing is not wrong. People borrow when they don't have. The question I always ask myself, doesn't Zambia have enough that we must continue to borrow? Should Zambia be going to borrow to go and service another debt? Madam Speaker, this has bothered me. If the Minister of Finance had come to this House to suggest that we support him to borrow, to go and invest in harnessing a low-hanging fruit in the mining sector, Madam Speaker, I would not have hesitated to support him, because that would have given us revenues to pay. Madam Speaker, we are a country, sadly enough, that would line up intelligent people to go and celebrate debt restructuring. Madam Speaker, this is where we are now. Intelligent people dressed in suits are asking themselves to borrow to go and service another debt. Doesn't that sound strange to all of us? It's very strange to me, Madam Speaker, very strange that all of us, to our sambas dressed in suits, to come and borrow in Congole to service in Congole, to borrow a debt to go and service another debt. It bothers me a lot, Madam Speaker. That is why today I'm very conflicted. Madam Speaker, this is what I would have expected. This government, a minister goes and makes a decision to allow $2.5 billion to fly out in Panama from the FQM. The case that was before the police, the minister decides to wash that case away. We lose $2.5 billion. Can you imagine what that $2.5 billion would have done to what we are dealing with today? Would the minister have come to borrow here? No, certainly not, Madam Speaker. The Ministry of Finance, there is a mining company that was owing $1 billion in taxes. The ministry makes to do a sweeping decision to only allow them to pay a meager, is it $30 million? $23 million. Madam Speaker, are we okay to be making those decisions? Are we certainly okay that we can now come and say, it's into Congole, let's borrow, when we are allowing all that money to flow by? Yet we do understand when there's a report of FIC, it is as a result of such reckless decisions where we are allowing monies to just go like that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my colleagues have spoken about the wealth of minerals in many areas. Sujilite, doesn't it bother you, Madam Speaker, that the whole House here has never had a minister of mines comes to tell the nation what government is doing to harness that lucrative mineral? Today we are talking about going to borrow to pay in Congole or to pay debts. Today, Madam Speaker. Doesn't it bother you, Madam Speaker, that the country is amassed with gold resources, starting from Kasenseli all the way to Mpika, Shiwangandu, Lumezi, name them, Madam Speaker. These are minerals. Gold, for instance, Madam Speaker. Look at the price of gold on the international market and what gold would have done to us, Madam Speaker. Are we a country that should continue to sit dressed up in suits to be discussing how we should borrow to go and service a borrow? I am extremely ashamed, Madam Speaker. I am extremely bothered. I'm extremely baffled that we must be sitting here to be supporting the Minister of Finance, who is letting go of huge sums of money only to come and ask us to come and support him to borrow, to go and service another borrowing. Madam Speaker, that is unacceptable. And I do not want any day to hear our friends pointing fingers on the people on your left talking about debt when their insatiable appetite for borrowing is manifesting each and every year. They are borrowing each and every year. And the minister cannot even explain. I was listening to an interview one day where he was asked, how much have you borrowed? He couldn't even state. Dishonesty of the highest kind. Madam Speaker, I am extremely bothered and I want to sit. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, J Cool, and turn on the notification bell, cause I'm gonna see you in the next video.